So as human beings, we love to buy things. We're all about consumerism. But today I wanted to switch that around and look at, when trying to buy a fragrance, what are 5 things that I would recommend and consider, things that I do that I find helpful. Do I always do this? Not always. I also have this fragrance channel, so I tend to buy more and have more clutter than I would probably ideally want. But if I could, in a perfect world, define 5 questions or 5 considerations before I would buy a fragrance, these are 5 that I would strongly consider. Now, before we jump into this video, definitely check out our Instagram, posting some great photos of different fragrance bottles. Great way to get some inspiration on your next signature scent. Going to also be interacting a lot more there in the coming months, so recommend checking that out. Be in the description down below. Now, for our first tip here, comes down to trying to develop your own opinions without outside influence, and then also sample the fragrance. I think both of those go together. Now, I think you can go for blind buys in some instances, but this could be expensive in terms of how it can rack up, and it doesn't allow you to really pinpoint. So I don't think it's the wise decision to go and blind buy something. Try a sample. What I would also recommend is wear the thing, get one with an actual atomizer on it. There's different samples, ones that aren't going to have that atomizer spray on the top, and I think it's always better to get one with an atomizer, spend a little bit more money, maybe get more like a 3 to 5 ml sample. Try it, sample it, so you get a real sense of how this is going to wear on the skin. Don't ask anybody else for their opinion first. Really isolate your experience with that fragrance and see what you think before you start to get other opinions in it. I think this is a rare instance where you can get a very unbiased view of how you approach this. Of course, you're gonna have some understanding of this fragrance going into it, because that's what allowed you to try to sample it, but really try to get into this isolated position that allows just your feelings about it to come to the forefront. For point number 2, and question to ask yourself, ask, where does this fragrance fit? And what do you currently have, and how will this next purchase complement what you already have going for you? I look at my fragrance collection, or pretty much anything that I decide to own, as almost collections of data points. You want data points on what you like and what you don't like. For fragrances, you're looking at things like notes. What notes and accords do you like? What genre of fragrances do you like? Do you like fougères, some amber fragrances, florals? Try to determine what are the themes that you enjoy and use that data to support that next purchase. The other thing that I always look at too is there any overlap? The same way I wouldn't buy the same shirt over again that's the exact same, maybe in a different color at least. I wanna see, is there actual likelihood that there's going to be an overlap here, and will I have the opportunity to wear it, or does something already fit that kind of box in my just fragrance wardrobe? Because some fragrances don't cost that much money, you can probably find joy in just knowing that, hey, I own that thing. If I can wear it once a year, I don't mind having it in my closet or somewhere. But there's also a point where if you're not wearing it, then what's the point of owning it? I think wearing it, enjoying it is part of the whole idea of actually owning something. If you're not getting that out of it, I think you have to question whether or not it's actually even worth the get in the first place. And then one other point under the where does it fit category is just look introspectively. Look at maybe what you want to project out from an adjective perspective and feel. And does that fragrance match what you want to project out with your personality? So make sure that there's a fit there with the fragrance and how it matches who you are. Now for point number 3, we have, what is your lifestyle and where do you spend most of your time? I think you have to also look at, sure, you have a personality that might match this fragrance, but if you're in situations where you're not gonna be able to utilize that fragrance enough, I think you have to question whether or not it's going to be a good acquisition for you. If you're a workaholic, you're always in the office in close proximity to other coworkers, maybe you don't want to go for overabundance of oud fragrances or tobacco amber style fragrances in your collection that'll just gas everybody out. Maybe you're a social partier. Probably don't go for something lighter and intimate with a high citrus top note that's gonna quickly evaporate. An example of this for me was Tobacco Vanille. I find this is a fragrance that's probably best suited for these kind of more party style environments, maybe a black tie, and also exuding this ultra confident type of persona and demeanor that I didn't find myself wearing it as much as I would have liked to for a fragrance that cost $300. So you have to be able to make those decisions for yourself. See the fragrance for what it is. Do you like it? But also, can you wear it for your lifestyle? Point number 4 all comes down to, does your climate support the fragrance that you're looking to buy next? So I live in a colder environment for most parts of the year. I'd say 8 months out of the year, you're looking at temperatures below 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So I typically like fragrances that maybe have a tobacco vanilla, maybe some fougères, looking at boozy fragrances, and also woody base fragrances, the things that can allow me to have maximum versatility in those colder months. So I would say I am a little bit more skewed towards that end for my fragrance collection and wardrobe. You have to look at that, I think, for yourself. If you're in that type of environment, or you're more in a tropical environment, say like somewhere like humid Florida, you probably don't want this like cloying vanilla fragrance to be going off your skin, or these boozy fragrances, amber fragrances, because it's going to just evaporate and going to be rather loud off your skin. So this one's pretty straightforward. Same thing can be said for cold weather with citrus-oriented fragrances, and things are not gonna have the same level of staying power and performance. And now for our last point here, we have the question of how much do you value smelling unique? Do you value smelling unique, or do you care more about getting a more mass appeal type of fragrance? And then there's almost this level or this ratio that you have to look at, unique versus mass appeal. I think many people in the fragrance industry, or those that have a love for fragrances, are going to look at niche independent perfumery in a specific way, more of its composition being unique. But there, on the flip side, comes the challenge with those people around you. The people that you come into contact with on a day-to-day basis are probably not going to have the same level of understanding of what goes into a fine fragrance, and also they probably are going to like something that's more mass appealing and inoffensive. Many of these more eclectic niche fragrances are going to go completely against that and be harder to digest, and are just simply more dense. So when you factor in all those other examples, I do think you have to make a decision for yourself. Do you care about what other people think? And be honest about it. It's okay if you do to some degree, because I do ultimately think many people decide to wear fragrances because they do want to potentially attract attention to themselves. It's a great way to send a message or set kind of a ambiance and tone about who you are and what you want to project out with something as intimate as your scent. So I get that idea. Just be honest with yourself about, for this next fragrance, where does it sit on that mass appeal type of ratio? Don't overvalue the idea of like compliments. I think if you want to get compliments or get people to notice your fragrance, just wear Dior Sauvage, because that's probably what's going to get the most compliments anyway. So develop this, figure out where you sit on that unique to mass appeal spectrum, and make sure this next purchase is in alignment with what you ultimately want there. All right, guys, well, those are 5 points and considerations that I would ask myself before buying a new fragrance. This is one of those situations that, do I follow this all the time? Not exactly, but I do think it's probably a wise thing to, if you wanted to really make a good, sound decision on your next fragrance purchase, probably some good things to consider, and things that I try to think about whenever I am buying something for myself and looking at what I currently have. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Really would appreciate that. Love to see the channel growing and appreciate all the great feedback so far. But thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.